transfer the one cast.
Good afternoon, everyone.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon, all.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Architect Michael. And our speaker, good afternoon.
Good afternoon, sir.
As you're aware, this is another series of one of us CPD3 program, and as you know, this is being sponsored by. Let me get the name again. Please pardon me. Yeah, this is being sponsored by Saint-Gobain, who are into lightweight materials. As you're aware, we're talking about sustainability in the lightweight construction. So please, we welcome everyone and feel free to ask questions. And once again, we'll welcome our speaker. That's in the person of Bongani Caesar, if I pronounce it right, sir.
That's correct.
Chairman Practice Committee, Michael Ali, are you available? All right, in his absence, Mr. Bogen Meza, you're welcome, and thank you very much. I think we can kickstart this seminar on sustainability in lightweight construction. Thank you for being around, sir. We can go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. David, for the opportunity.
Yes, sorry, just to come in now. I hope we have the representative of St. Global Gobain online, because they are meant to have, I'm sorry, the speaker, we're meant to have a production, for about 5 or 10 minutes before we go into the main topic, or is it going to be done by the speakers as well?
I think we've got Denver on the line.
Right, Denver, good afternoon. Yeah, hi, Denver. Hello, good afternoon, Denver.
Yeah, good afternoon, Denver.
Yes. Do we have a presentation before we get the speaker speaking, or we'll do the presentation after the lecture? Hello, Denver.
David, is that?
Yes, we want a presentation. I think we have a presentation by Saint Gobain before the speaker comments, or is the speaker going to do together for us?
No, so David, I'll just do a brief introduction, if that's okay. I just wanted to do that. No problem.
All right. So, Mr. Bogain Caesar, I think you can go ahead, sir. Thank you very much.
All right. Okay. Thank you so much for that opportunity. And thank you for everyone that has made their time available to us. Just going to ask from the host to enable me being able to share my screen. At the moment, it's disabled. I will take this.
Sorry. Just one. I don't know whether there's obviously some sort of a delay, or because I'm also struggling to hear you guys. So let me just do the quick introduction, and then you can get on with this. Is that fine?
Thank you. Yes.
Perfect. Hi, good afternoon, guys. And thank you for taking the time, and firstly to NIA for the opportunity for us to allow Saint-Gobain to present. And as most of you know, Saint-Gobain is over 350 years old. We started with glass. We had a 52 billion. We've been in Africa since 70s, so manufacturing, industrial presence on the continent. We are big into glass. I think some of you actually know the POP in Nigeria. Over 30 years ago, we were the guys that brought POP into Nigeria. So quite a success story on the POP model. Saint-Gobain is big on sustainability, and that is what we'd like to look at in Nigeria, alternate building methodology. And I personally am very, very passionate about it. And as you can see, you'll notice once I get off this video, my back screen is the future of Lagos. And it's really, I'm very, very passionate. Whenever I travel the world, my presentations always shows what is the future of Lagos. The people are great, and I just love the energy on the ground and the positiveness, and I'm looking forward to it. So I've just taken on this role for about a year now. I'm 23 years in the construction industry and 18 years now with Saint-Gobain. So worked in various divisions. So I look forward to bringing that experience and knowledge in country and to work with each of you on developing various projects from sustainability to habitat to building a better home. And we look forward to it. And again, NIA, thank you for the opportunity. David and team, much appreciated. I hand you over now. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much, David. And it's nice to hear from you once more. And over to you, Mr. Bongani Caesar. Sorry, correct me if I pronounce your surname right, please. Is it M. Caesar?
Bongani.
Bongani.
Yes.
Oh,
I just maybe a little bit of help, as I had requested. I'm unable to share at this point in time. If you could just enable, at least for me to be able to share my presentation. While we wait for that, a little bit of intro for those that might not have an idea. My name is Bongani Caesar, advocacy specialist in Saint-Gobain. I've been with the business. Thank you, sir. Been with the business for just over 7 years now, and pleased to have this opportunity to be able to share the presentation that has been prepared for the audience. Before I do go ahead, I just want to confirm if my screen is available and visible to you guys.
Yeah, it is available. It's on.
Okay, perfect. Yeah, just a bit about myself. My background is architecture. Studied architecture, found myself with Saint-Gobain, and I realized I'm still in the industry and I'm making positive impact. So that gives me the pleasure to have an opportunity to engage with my fellow professionals in this space, particularly being in Nigeria, and the opportunity to present a CPD program that is focused at sustainability in lightweight construction, also in the built environment as a whole. So I'm going to start with my presentation with a short clip. I'm hoping it will play on your end. We did check some technicalities. So allow me to play this clip here. It gives you a summary of Saint-Gobain and what we are about when it comes to sustainable lightweight construction. Please do confirm if the audio comes through.
We share a common vision. Be the worldwide leader in light and sustainable construction. And we translate this vision into a mission for the construction market. We care about building better for people and the planet by offering solutions that deliver sustainability and performance to drive the transformation of the construction market. Caring for those who build so that they can do their job more safely and easily while improving their business. Caring for those who spend time in buildings so that they can have a healthier and more comfortable daily life. Caring for the planet by reducing buildings' environmental impacts. We care about building better for people and the planet is at the heart of all our construction business brands as the concrete driver of our brand promises. Customer proximity. We commit, beyond our local footprint, to be always by your side as a reliable, expert business partner. Innovative solutions. We commit to constantly anticipate your needs and bring added value solutions. Performance. We commit to respond to your challenges by bringing trusted solutions which offer productivity, financial benefits, and quality finish, delivering the expected performance. Sustainability. We commit to care about people by making installation and indoor environments more comfortable and safer, and to care for the planet by reducing buildings' environmental impacts. Everywhere, every day, we care about building better for people and the planet by offering solutions that deliver sustainability and performance to drive the transformation of the construction market, making the world a better home.
Thank you for that. I hope you've all enjoyed a short clip. This basically gives you an overall summary about Saint-Gobain's offering and the positioning in the market in driving sustainability, innovative solutions that are performance-driven with a key focus being sustainability. So I'd like to take this opportunity and just break it down basically with our key focus areas, which is customers and proximity. And that means basically in all that we do, we will be there to support you in projects that need our solution. We will obviously walk the journey with you. Innovation, we are constantly innovating. We're actually responding to the need and the market. So Saint-Gobain does actually develop constantly solutions that are fit for market with the key focus being sustainability again. Performance, any project has its own requirement. So definitely in our response, we have to adhere and understand what the project's needs are. And with this, we are able to drive the message of sustainability with the purpose of making the world a better home. With that said, I'm going to get into some of the objectives of the presentation. We will look at what is sustainability. And to this question here, there could be a whole lot of variety of responses or answers to it. However, with the zoom in from a Saint-Gobain's perspective, we looked at the key 3 pillars of sustainability in the built environment. We will unpack those. We will also look at the Net Zero 2050 Paris Agreement commitments. And I think I've an interest in understanding where Nigeria's position is with regards to this, which is the COP21 that happened in 2015. And this is with a focus on climate change as we know it. On the sustainability component, we look at the 4 drivers for sustainable buildings. We've got some legislation from the South African context. And again, I think it will be interesting to understand where Nigeria is positioned with regards to this. Some international statistics on energy efficiency, which is pretty much linked to sustainability. As we know, there are some challenges when it comes to energy supply in various countries, particularly in the African market. Science-based targets, we'll touch on that. Some product certification support from a Saint-Gobain's perspective, and also other stakeholders within the market. Skills development programs and support on projects. We will also touch base on what support is available from a Saint-Gobain's perspective. And we will also just highlight some recently completed projects that were driven by lightweight solutions and some with some green sustainability rating. I hope the audio is clear on your guys' end. I would like that confirmation. And before we move over, I would also indicate that I have no visibility of questions, comments. Perhaps those can be typed in the section and we can look at towards the end of the presentation where we'll discuss any comments and questions. However, I do not mind to be interjected. However, we need to just keep it short and sweet. Thank you.
Yeah, I think that's fine and clear. The audio is very good.
Okay, lovely. What is sustainability? I think it's a question on everyone's mind, and we probably do have a response to that question individually so. And it wouldn't be far-fetched from what as Saint-Gobain we've identified. What is sustainability and who cares about it? That is the question. Typical response to this is that you don't want to compromise the future while you meet the needs of your current situation with regards to natural resources or also social and economical resources. Now, you will also consider sustainability not only as an environmentalism, but it's also mostly a definition that has to do with social equity and economic development. With that said, we're talking to the audience here, which really entails a variety of personals. In this case, we've got architects and designers. We're looking at millennials, we're looking at moms, healthcare professionals, high-end consumers. Our key focus is the designers in this context. where we create beautiful buildings, overseeing material selection. And with that in mind, we need to be conscious of what longevity and eco-friendliness of our material selection. So as architects, we are affected by sustainability, and in all that we do, through our design, through the concept, we need to really take into account what impact the buildings that we put out there have to the environment, also to the well-being of the occupants. Now, looking at the three pillars, as I've mentioned, in the sustainability built environment, we're looking at carbon and climate change. We will look at resources and circularity, health and well-being. Now, with carbon and climate change, one would ask the different causes and also the effects of this. However, in summary, what are the social impacts of climate change? We all aware of the recent change in climate, which has resulted in some areas where loss of livelihoods, hunger, malnutrition, increased risk of diseases, global food and water shortages. Displaced people, it's another factor. So we have a key role to play in mitigating and actually addressing some of these challenges. How do we do that? When you look at resources and circularities, we should have an interest in understanding the production processes and how we acquire our products. And through that process, we will then be able to understand what opportunities are there for us in either producing new, recovering the existing, recycling the existing, or even reuse, and thereof reducing the need for waste generation. So I think it's quite critical that we need to understand that process, and also from the supplier and the manufacturer's perspective, let's understand what their product presents. What is the lifespan, what opportunities are there in terms of it being reused for different purposes, the recyclability of the product, and also how can we have that reduction in waste generation on our sites. The health and well-being, we're looking at the summary here. We will go into details later for each of these components. We're looking at cleaner air quality, which really has a lot to do with the indoor air quality, because we spend most of our time indoors, with about 90% of our lives spent indoors. Therefore, it requires interventions to understand what products have to do with the healthiness of the environment and how do they actually affect or rather improve our well-being. So that's something we need to be quite cognizant of, making sure that our decision-making in product selection, in basically implementing whatever we want to achieve within projects, that it does not pose any harm to the end user or the occupants of the space. Therefore, improved health equity is very important. Net zero commitment. This is a 2050 Paris Agreement. I'm not too sure where Nigeria sits with this, and this is where my line of engagement would be of interest to understand what are various measures that are in place in driving this message and actually seeing this target come through, if there is any agreements in place for the Nigerian market. However, this is as a result of the COP21 outcomes, where various countries subscribed, and in particular, it was about 187 at the time, where there was a share common climate change, climate action plan. And South Africa in this context has actually been subscribed to this. And with that said, over 40,000 cities which put action plans in place to cut emissions in half. We have cities within the South African context. In this case, we've got 5 cities that have actually committed to putting measures in place, therefore reviewing the legislation within those cities. And we are looking at an additional uptick to that, which is Cape Town, Johannesburg, City of Tshwane, eThekwini, and Ekurhuleni. They have made these commitments and there are measures in place. We will look at some slight legislation into the context of the South African market. When it comes to private companies, we've also made some commitments to use science-based targets to cut our emissions. Saint-Gobain has committed to that. The question is, are you in your space? With that said, the targets are in 2 phases. You've got 2030 target, which is for new build to have net zero by 2030. When it comes to, obviously, this running parallel existing stock of assets, the target is aimed at 2050. What it means is between now and then, we all have to make efforts to actually get to net zero and minimize our negative impact to the climate. These commitments are obviously influenced by the World Green Building Council with the support of Green Building Council of South Africa. Every professionals in the space, particularly when it comes to buildings of a particular size, and also the sectors, in this case being public buildings, being the immediate impact where they have to get them to be net zero by 2050 on the exit stock, and any new build should be targeting a net zero by 2030. Now, looking at energy CO2 emissions reference case, we see that buildings are high up there, which is why we're having this discussion and an engagement where we need to have this reduction of CO2 emissions, which is measured in gigatons per year. Buildings are sitting at 30 gigatons per year, with transportation being second, other industries and power, as well as industrial sectors. Now, this has to be reduced. And how do we reduce it? We need to deploy renewable energy. We need to have that renewable energy at least at 41%, with energy efficiency at 40%, and the total being 81% in CO2 emissions that should be reduced for us to actually be able to have a positive impact in our target to reaching 2050. Now, far right diagram literally just shows you if you reduce energy demand through energy efficiency, and you just have to increase your renewable energy sources that can be sustained. Now, what that means is that for our design purposes, we need to review how we design, and we need to explore various alternative energy sources to make sure that these buildings do not have a negative impact and lessen their CO2 emissions as much as possible. This information here is backed up by tips in the South African context. This is trade and industrial policy strategies. So all these agreements are actually driven through various organizations. Buildings are part of the problem, and it's a continuity that we need to put mitigation factors in place. We use about 33% of energy use globally. It's all in buildings. And now the image there, for me, I always highlight the fact that you've got a night scene where buildings are all lit, and probably amongst those buildings, not all of them are residential. Therefore, some of them should not be using the energy during non-use period, which requires various interventions as professionals to implement in place. Also, about 40% of solid waste is generated on construction site. Now, that is something we can look into when we, explore our resources and circularity. How can we minimize this impact, as we've highlighted, how we can reuse some of those facilities, lessen the need for demolition, and obviously conversion for the various users. 20% of all water consumed is in construction as well. Now, this is a very scarce resource. I think I would probably say also the Nigerian market is probably facing the same challenge. Now, this needs to be lessened. And how do we do that? We can deploy alternative building technologies, which will actually reduce the pressure on the scarce resource of water. With the industrial side, you've got 65% of our exposure to outdoor air pollution that occurs internally. What that means is, with all the pollution that happens externally, it finds its way to affect on our lives in terms of indoors. So we need to also have that reduction and also put mitigation factors to the exposed percentage so that it does not have a bad reaction to our lives. Straight into sustainability, we're now going to unpack the various factors and the drivers for sustainable buildings. Now, we see it in two folds from a Saint-Gobain perspective. What does it mean for buildings? We're looking at the sustainability being better for the planet with a focus on energy and carbon, resources and circularity, and being better for people, looking at the health and safety on job sites, not only that, but health and well-being indoors. On the performance side, we're looking at better economical value, we're looking at productivity, cost of ownership, and then better quality, we're looking at reliability and the finishing aesthetics, which I think for every building, it has to respond to all of these drivers. Now, reduced building-related environmental footprint for the planet means we need to take care of our energy and our carbon generation and usage thereof. Now, increased energy efficiency is one key point, interventions that one can deploy in their projects. Increased use of renewable energies and reduced embodied carbon emissions. So what that means is, we highlighted earlier when we defined sustainability and why we as architects are affected is that we need to understand our material selection and what impact they have on the environment and also on the building itself. So we need to consider that, in our day-to-day, actions when we design, and understand what impacts will this have on the planet with regards to energy and the carbon emissions. Expanding on the Better for the Planet. From our South African context, we've got energy efficiency, which is driven through sustainability and energy use in buildings. What does that mean? We've got legislation, and I think I would love engagements because of my non-visibility of what the Nigerian legislation is and what measures are in place. However, this is not limited to South Africa, which is why it's of interest for us to share. So we aim to reduce energy needed, minimize that whole 33% globally, combat climate change through various interventions, and also have a positive microeconomic impact with the reduction in energy costs. Now, this image here would relate to probably most of us, is that the various building elements have a role to play in how they actually minimize or keep the heat for the level of comfort. The various components poses a risk. In this case, your roofing element, you could lose potentially up to 25% if it's not well treated with the necessary solutions. Your walling design, if it's not responsive to the climate, you could also potentially lose about 35%. Now, windows 10%, doors 15%, something that is not commonly addressed, it's your floor. Now, that you have an opportunity to also insulate and minimize a loss of 15% in energy. Now, with all of this loss of energy, it requires for you to use energy to create some level of comfort. So if we design quite well, and if we design for the climate that we're in, such that it responds positively to the occupants, we actually can minimize all this risk. Looking at the energy efficient house, it's just a typical image that really highlights various interventions that can be deployed. Not only is it reliant on passive design through building elements, but we can look at high efficiency lighting solutions, appliances as well, which complements the entire envelope of the building. So we have an opportunity there to actually address these challenges through various mechanisms within our space as designers. I would like to highlight some legislation from a South African context. It's just a brief indication, which I probably believe you might have something similar from the Nigerian market, is that SANS 10400 XA legislation helps us understand and also put measures in place to make sure that our buildings are as energy efficient as possible, and we've got a positive impact towards climate change. Now, what this means is that an opportunity is always there for new build, obviously, but also we're looking at existing buildings that are actually earmarked for renovation. So at any given stage, when you have a renovation opportunity, you also have an opportunity to actually better improve the level of comfort, make the building as energy efficient as possible, and depending on the level of targets, you can also get some level of Green Star rating to actually achieve that. Now, there are three ways in how you actually can achieve the compliance. And what this means is, from a South African market, which I probably think it will be in the same nature from a Nigerian market, is that you've got various energy zones. In this case, we are defined by various provinces, which I think it will be something similar in the various states in the Nigerian context, where you've got three ways of meeting this. Being one is to design and construct buildings that are energy efficient through rational design. This will be through the appointment of an engineer or a specialist that is capable to design rationally to a building that complies and meets the required target. Secondly, you've got a dim to satisfy, which is commonly used in most buildings, where the treatment of the envelope, as we've highlighted earlier, looking at the orientation, the shading, walls treatment, fenestration through your glazing, and your roof assembly. That is a most common one. On the third element, we've got what we call an AGRIMA certification, which is now earmarked for non-conventional building systems. In this case, it looks at lightweight systems as a subject of today. So, because it's non-conventional, you will have to go through some tests to actually certify a building or certify that system to be fit to be used, with some understanding, in terms of how it responds to fire, water penetration test, wind pressure, and all of those. So with that said, on the right-hand side, we're looking at various energy consumption, which should be addressed through various interventions, with most building consuming over 39% within the HVAC space, which is something that we can actually minimize by design buildings that are self-regulatory in terms of temperature control. Your lighting, we spoke about how much light or energy is used unnecessarily. That can also be further reduced from the 25% if we design smart and we put the necessary solutions in place to address some of those challenges. The various equipments that obviously can be put on timer, only function when needed. Lifts can be limited to various floors. Perhaps you don't need to use a lift between 2 floors, except if you're going on the 3rd floor. I mean, such things should be accompanied by legislation. It is a suggestion. Domestic hot water boiling equipments, those are other interventions that we can find a way of improving how they consume electricity in buildings. The rationale behind the National Building Regulation in this case is that you also want to look at your biggest energy user in residential buildings, which is your hot water supply. So meaning the right treatment, making sure that your, in this case, your geyser system is well insulated together with the ducting that distributes your hot water, and partially so on the incoming cold water. Your HVAC systems should also be treated such that they're as energy efficient as possible, with the focus also being your facade system. As much as one could see it as glass looking all beautiful, it has a role to play from an envelope structural point of view in how that will contribute for the need, or rather the reduction for heating, cooling, and ventilation. So designing these systems, you need to also understand your product selection and what performance it will deliver and how sustainable it is as well. There are various ways of addressing this. Again, this is in the context of our space, but I don't think it will be anything out of your context. We understand the various building methodology. From a South African context, there has been a law that has been passed to try get as many buildings built with a cavity wall as possible with our SANS revision edition 2. And how you can build that, you can have a different composition of walling for interior, as well as exterior product, but also you can have a combination of one product system. With an insulated opportunity, you actually get a much better performance, looking at the middle diagram here. On the right-hand side, you've got different zones, which is categorized by various provinces and what their energy, R-value requirements are, which is mandatory, as you can see there. So I would also love to understand whether do you have some form of guideline to this to understand what your targeted R-value performance is for your perimeter envelope? It will be very interesting to at least understand how will this, be treated from a Nigerian market context point of view. But I believe it's an opportunity that all of us can actually adopt one or two of these solutions to better improve how we design our buildings. Some of the alternative solutions are focusing on the left top image. We're looking at an existing structure here that might not have the necessary required performance. However, you have an opportunity to dry line, meaning improve the perimeter of that wall through various intervention, introducing insulation, but also improving the internal finish, and therefore holistically achieving a whole lot more than just a perimeter wall. So with that said, your roofing system can also be insulated, which gives you a better performance there as well. And some of the areas that we can actually play a role through our insulation solution is that you can dry line onto brickwork. Facade systems can be insulated, HVAC ducting, concrete floors, concrete roof, and also soft roofs, as well as ceilings. So that is some of the interventions that you can actually introduce, making sure that your building envelope performs as optimal as possible. Why do we need spacer system? This is a spacer system for industrial buildings or soft roof structures, where any insulation that is compressed, we call it thermal bridge. And again, legislation has been passed from our context, which I think is a good thing for you to probably consider, is that you create a spacer system that actually ensures that you have the thickness of the insulation right across your roofing system, which then assures, or rather make sure that you are going to have the required performance in terms of that insulation delivering on what it's there for. So great opportunity for you to look into that, whether such interventions are in place or whether there is a need for them to be improved. Opportunities are there for us to encourage the design according to relevant legislation or the laws of each country or province or area. Energy cost escalating annually. I believe this is a challenge in Nigeria as well, and the availability of energy. So if we do put some various interventions in terms of how we use natural sources to power our structures or houses, buildings, supply of energy is always at risk. So if we can put some interventions there, that will be great. Buildings that are compliant will increase in value. So something of importance. So we need to really look into how we can attract right investment, how we can attract, in some cases, tenants, is to make buildings that are as comfortable as possible, buildings that are actually beneficial to the end user, and they have a positive impact. With that said, better for the planet, we need to also look at how we can decarbonize. How do we decarbonize? Is that we will deploy energy efficiency solutions to the maximum degree in order to reduce the need for power, or the needs that have to be met within the usage space. We will decarbonize the power supply. This is now talking to alternative power supply, obviously, which is through the decarbonization of electricity supply. And then we will also look at economy-wide electrification, that is now through pushing clean electricity into various sectors. And lastly, we can look at zero carbon fuels. So we can try and obviously use as much as less carbon fuel for the remaining area that cannot be electrified through the alternative measures. How do we do that? In the context of new buildings, you should have some legislation that governs and actually prescribes the various options and what tools are available and various solutions to adopt. And then on existing buildings, you can also deploy a system where you need to firstly understand where your energy consumption level is. And in our case, we've got energy performance certificates, which is through measuring the current use of energy. And once you've understood where your usage is, you can put the interventions and measures in place to improve on this one here so that you lessen the pressure on the system. And the pull factors for existing buildings is that we're looking at rates and taxes benefits through municipalities for sustainable buildings and green bonds as well. So if you are able to show that your building is as energy efficient and as sustainable as possible, there you can have a benefit through some financial means or some rebates from local municipality. On new buildings, you've got an opportunity to immediately look at how your space is contributing positively through the ESG strategy. You can also look at Green Building Council of your relevant zone to see how you can support new buildings to meet the various criteria to ensure that you are actually, being seen to aim for a much more sustainable environment. Definitely an opportunity there to look into. Just expanding on economy-wide electrification, we're looking at solar panels, over your roof. I think there is almost an obvious solution there, but we also need to look at, insulation, glass fiber solution. So that is something we need to really, really explore as professionals, make sure that we've got this opportunity and maximize on the use of various solutions to electrify our buildings through the wider range. Zero carbon fuels, we're looking at building life cycle assessment. It's another indicator where you can actually understand the warming potential indicator measurement. So you ascertain what that means for your building. But some solutions in making sure that you can have this aimed performance achieved is through lightweight systems. Looking at the glass wool usage, which it should be of importance to understand that the recyclability of glass wool, or rather the products used in manufacturing glass wool, have been recycled. Mortar usage that also generated from recycled material. Low carbon cement, I do believe, or the various manufacturers are putting intervention in place to show their positive contribution in this case. Further to that, you have embodied a reduction in embodied carbon emissions. What that means is that through your design and planning procedures, at planning stage, you definitely have 100% opportunity to explore nothing, but rather see how you can work on the existing stock. And through design, and there's a need for that, you can look at building less, maximize use of existing assets once more. However, if you have to further see a need for that, you need to develop a new building. You need to build clever, so you optimize your material usage, your design with low carbon material selection, as we've highlighted earlier. And you can also build efficiency during construction through alternative technologies, and you can minimize or rather eliminate waste altogether. And throughout the operation and maintenance of the building, that should be something that is maintained, understanding the impact of what your product selection it means for you. Further to that, we're looking at resources and circularity for the focus of it being better for the planet. We've highlighted the reduction in non-renewable resources, reduction in freshwater consumption, increased lifetime and use rate. Now, what does that mean? It means you also need to understand where your water usage is from various sectors. And once you ascertain that, you can actually put measures in place for the various sectors. And in this case, just on the South African market point of view, you can see where the various water consumption is sitting at. And definitely there is a need for us to put various interventions to lessen the pressure on the scarce resource. More to that, I think we started designing with this in mind, where we collect rainwater. We'll see how we can make it work for the buildings, use it for various reasons, so that we lessen the use of potable water in running or operation of the building. So those various interventions that have been explored, I think as designers, we should be encouraged to actually keep doing that. And also, as manufacturers, we should be seen as doing such. This example here shows an insulated ducting. One might ask, how does that got to do with reduction of freshwater consumption? The truth is, if your geyser is not well insulated, before you get your hot water, probably get cold water, and quite often that water goes down the drain. Now that's water wasted. It's clean, potable water, which could have been used for other reasons. If you do present an opportunity to insulate, you can minimize that, because your water will be kept at the right temperature, or rather at a usable temperature, as opposed to it going directly down the drain. Again, we've got an Ecotech solution from a Saint-Gobain's point of view, where we produce products that use less water, less energy, and that's a technology that we've deployed in showing the effort to minimize also on our carbon emissions. Again, reduction of non-renewable use. My focus will be on the right-hand side, which is pretty much linked to resources and circularity, that you want to prevent waste generation as much as possible as your starting point. You are going to want to reuse without transformation where possible again. Recycle into secondary raw material. I think that is an opportunity that we should really explore to be seen to be as sustainable into our project. Now, this is driven by probably the Nigeria Green Building Council should have these guidelines as to what is required for each of them and what are the minimum and the maximum targets for each of these areas. So turning into waste into energy, it's an opportunity that I think we should all explore, perhaps not directly, but the various professions within the built environment can actually look into this, because most of our landfill, they've actually got so much waste that can be converted into energy. And I think that is a technology that is yet to be explored from an African market perspective. Now, we're looking at the various products here that present an opportunity with ideal recycled content. Stone wool sitting at 40%, glass wool at 80%. So that already tells you where your opportunity is in making sure that the products that you are deploying into your projects, they are actually already done their part in reducing resource usage. And obviously the various other products that I've listed here, they show you what percentage of recycled content they each have. It's not limited, obviously. It's just a few that we've highlighted to you. Use of non-renewable continues here with the gypsum boards. Typically, that's our space there. You get custom-made sizes, which again, makes it minimizes the risk of waste generation on site. Recycling services for plasterboard, mineral wool, and glass. So these products here gives you an opportunity to be able to recycle what exists if you are taking out anything out of site, and also presents not an opportunity to turn it into secondary use where possible. Lightweight system construction, which is a focus for today, all of these various interventions from a Saint-Gobain perspective presents that opportunity. Bio-sourced insulation products, which is again renewable content material that is used. Now, what does that mean for buildings? It reduces the bill of materials with an understanding of what has actually gone into the manufacturing process. Better for people. I think everyone is interested to make sure that whatever they do on a job site, they actually comply to safety, healthy. They've got an opportunity to minimize accident. They have minimized the risk, and more than anything, they adhere to the necessary training and policies that are actually supposed to be adhered to. So what does that mean? It means we need to have a reduced exposure to hazardous substances during installation. Generation of dust should be minimized as possible. And it also has to do with kind of products you've selected once again, which generally talks to improved working conditions. If you can have a clean working environment, you can actually minimize and better have positive contribution towards the well-being of people. Now, in the context of construction site, also some challenges that are present depending on the environment and how you construct is that you've got musculoskeletal diseases as a result of carrying heavy material, which could somehow affect you. But you can also have respiratory diseases as a result of how much dust and how much hazardous substances you're exposed to. So we need to really be cognizant of that on job sites. Builders' exposure to hazardous should be minimized. And how do we do that? We actually have to understand the products and whether it has any VOC that it releases, or at least some limited VOCs to some extent, through the environment. So your product selection should be such that you understand the impact that will have, on job sites. So how do we determine that? It's through the various mechanisms that can be put in place to ascertain what the level of hazardousness the product has to, people that are working with it. And how do we do that as Saint-Gobain is through our innovative products development. We actually constantly looking at addressing some of these challenges, minimizing the dust and making sure that they're as non-emissive as possible. So we can actually do that together and understanding our product selection on our job sites. Further to that, we're looking at indoor and well-being of people. So what does it also mean? It means how does the environment that is now finished has an impact on the end user? We need to have an environment that is good for our indoor air quality, better acoustics, making sure that one experiences a space the best way they can, better thermal comfort, which looks at how building has been treated on the envelope and various elements, and how does that give the level of comfort, which in turn will minimize the need for energy usage, and better visual comfort, which is also very important, because when you walk into a space, there's so many ways of how you experience that space, visually, acoustically, thermal, and also, the indoor air quality. Now, we spoke about how much we spend time indoors, and this literally highlights between adults and children. We are about 80%, to be precisely, and kids, they're about 90% indoors. Now, that really requires a need for us to look at how we design our spaces and what impact these going to have to the end users. And this is a stat as per the World Health Organization. So we should really be seen to playing a part, making sure that the amount of time we spend indoors does not have a negative impact on us. When you look at acoustics performances, it will take you about 15 minutes to regain your concentration. in a space that is not well designed. So we need to be cognizant of that. Again, the heat wave that everyone is exposed to globally is estimated to be about 125 million. So that tells you that we need to really understand, how does that impact the people and how do our buildings respond to the environment. Further to that, how do we determine that? It's obviously the CO2 content in the air that can be measured, the VOC content in the air, not only limited in the air, but also on your products in terms of furniture, just products that are exposed to end users. So that should be something that we can ascertain. Further to that, what does that mean? It means we should be looking at as low emissive products as possible. Now that can be ascertained through product selection and understanding what that product means in terms of VOC, if it has any, and then you can make an informed decision. Active capture of indoor pollutants, there are various interventions through, again, product selection that actually do respond to some of the pollutants within the space. It's just some of the alternative solutions that one can consider. These are some of the products that have an active air technology in them, which means they do help in reduction of VOCs. They perform on the acoustic side of it. They can also give an aesthetic finish, within the space. Thermal comfort, as we know, we all want to be, in a comfortable environment at any given stage. So for us, it should be quite key to understand how the space we've designed is going to actually contribute. Once again, your envelope is an opportunity to look at how will it respond to the end user, the entire structure, obviously, and the services thereof within that space. And this talks to site-specific conditions, which is why believe in having legislation. It will be determined by the various weather conditions in the various areas as well. And thereof, good thermal insulation, it's one intervention to actually address this challenge. The 4 drivers for sustainable buildings, as we highlighted earlier, we're looking at better economical value now in terms of performance. What does that mean? We need to design efficiently at the design stage of the building. So at any given stage, when you have an opportunity to design a new building, first in mind should be how efficient can we be with the operation of this facility, and what various interventions are available in your market to actually deploy such that that building is as energy efficient as possible. We're looking at the efficiency of the construction process as well. What alternative solutions can we deploy versus the conventional method? Optimize the cost of installation as well. Understand the sourcing of the product, the installation, and what greater benefit will that present as well. It's not limited to that. Any new technology comes with an opportunity to generate employment, which we'll touch on later on our training. And better economical value. The image on the right, for me, I always say, the tip of the iceberg doesn't really tell you much about what you see. And in the context of designers, if a building is not as appealing, most often it's the building that responds better to the environment, meaning all the hidden considerations that are not visible but yet are beneficial to the end user might not be seen, meaning operational cost would have been optimized, increased value of the property, efficient at the end of the building's life. What does mean is the building should be easy to be changed and converted for various use. And through lightweight solutions, you can actually do that with ease, because you would have future-proofed the building, and it will be easy and optimal to change use as and when it changes. Typically, it's your health facilities, your even residential, even commercial, depending on what the market needs at the time. You can convert that building to various usage. Could be residential today, it could be an office tomorrow, it could be an office tomorrow. Today, it could be a hotel at any given stage in the future. Through the lightweight solutions, it will be easy to convert such. And then on the better quality, you're looking at reliability, which talks to guaranteed quality. What it means is this products here gives you an opportunity to be reused. Again, this is now practicing your resources and circularity, gives you that opportunity for long-lasting solution, and also safety being one of the key factors where the solution will perform better under fire in most cases, depending on what the requirements are, but also it will give you the required performance as another part of what our focus is. Every system that gets deployed into the project, it would have been developed to respond to the needs of that project. Better quality drywall gives you an opportunity to have a variety level of finishes from level 0 to 5. So you get to choose what level of finish that lightweight system does give you. It also gives you an opportunity to have various color finishes, the versatility on shapes, and a wider range of architectural possibilities. As you can see, the various images there does tell you, should you go lightweight, you actually have endless possibilities in how you can achieve quality. Now, looking at some international statistics, I mean, some of the stats just to come up front might be a bit questionable in terms of the energy efficiency scorecard. And also what is very interesting is perhaps with time, one would understand where the rest of Africa is in terms of participating. And it's something perhaps if there is an opportunity to share some of the data, it will be very helpful. In this case, South Africa seemingly is the only participant on this score sheet. However, you also look at how these areas are measured versus other areas. Someone might question other regions, and I have my own question. See if someone will probably pick up if they do agree or do not agree with one of the ratings. The highly efficient are marked in I think it's green. I tend to have problem with color. And then blue, they are marked as efficient, with purple being middle, and then low efficiency, it's more on the orange side, and the lowest efficiency, it's the red marked area. Now, South Africa is not doing so well as an overall conclusion. However, with some legislation that are in place, we're actually making interventions, and we hopefully are moving in the right direction. However, someone might also ask, is China really as efficient as it's said to be? I think that's a question that we can leave it for debate versus the likes of Russia as well. So this is just some international score, and you can see European market seems to be leading up at number 1, number 2, 4, and 5 versus I think there's a total of about 25 in this, which we'll look into just shortly. Now, Germany, it's high up there in terms of household leads on energy efficiency. These are all developed market, and China is right there at number 6 when you compare to it versus US, Japan, UK, France, and Germany, as mentioned. Now, I'd like us to zoom to the bottom diagram. This is now targets of 2050 commitments. What it means is that for us to reduce our greenhouse gas emissions versus 1990, we have a targeted aim at, or that is for 2050. We need to have that reduction from now, which is recently 2020, to 2050. We have a estimated reduction of about 23.8. Which really means we need to do better in that space. Renewable energy, that means we need to obviously up that with an achieved target as of 2013 of 25.4, and final energy consumption as of 2012, which is 12.4. Now that should be parallel, as you can see it running proportionally, because for you to reduce the climate impact or greenhouse gas reduction, you need to up your renewable energy, therefore minimizing on non-renewable. And then the bottom here, it shows the primary energy consumption versus 2008 to 2013, energy productivity, as well as building renovations. So we're not doing so well, but there is a concerted effort to have that reduced right up to minus 50%. Now, once again, building efficiency is one of the most affordable ways to cut emissions, and buildings are right at the top. So as professionals, we really need to play our part. Obviously, there are various sectors, agriculture, industry, energy supply, forestry, transport, and waste. They also need to do a concerted effort. In us playing our part within the building environment, we will also have an impact, a positive one, in both transport as well as waste, and to some extent forestry as well, depending on our product selection. Now, the rankings highlighted earlier is that your total scorecard, we've got various industries, which is buildings, industry, and transportation. That's where the measurement was taken. versus the world. South Africa is sitting at 23 against 25 countries. That's an overall score. But when you look at buildings, we're not doing so bad. We're sitting at 17 versus 25. And then you're looking at industry. Really, there's a need for us to improve that in that space. And then transportation, we've also sitting at 22, so it means we have an opportunity to even do better. Now, what that means, it means buildings plus industry. In the South African context, we basically consuming about 71% of energy demand. It's sitting in buildings and industry. Therefore, we need to really improve that, which will ultimately put us in a better position against our international counterparts. Increased energy efficiency. I think the diagram on the left literally depicts what is on the right, but I'll just focus on what the left-hand side basically is about. Limit energy need for heating and cooling, which again shows your initiative in minimizing the energy use. Final energy, select highly efficient equipment. We've discussed that. It's an opportunity to do that. Clean and local energy supply. Let's look at alternative in us decarbonizing through renewable, locally sourced energy. And then smart grid ready, prepare for a wider and more resilient energy, if we are in the opportunity to do that. So we definitely can increase our energy efficiency through the various measures as indicated. This is just an expansion of that, which highlights again that 33% was energy consumption. I'll just go through that. Something to note when it comes to insulation here is that you've got possibly a lifespan of 50 years, which is the product that you can, put as an almost immediate intervention to have your building as energy efficient as possible. And with that said, the product can save up to 300 times of energy consumed and the CO2 emitted in its production, transportation, and disposal. So you've got a product here that by using it, you would have saved and played your part in minimizing the CO2 impact, because it would have already been through that process, and therefore having it in your building, it minimizes, or rather has no what you call negative impact, and the energy and CO2 balance switches to positive in just 3 months. So by having a building that's insulated, you will actually tell the difference within 3 months of installation of such an insulation solution. So insulation is one key part in increasing your energy efficiency in your buildings. Some of the case study that was done in Cape Town, where this block of residential building was certified to have had 41% energy savings, 30% of water savings, and 36 less embodied carbon. Now that's through your product selection and understanding. Further to that, some science-based target. I think this highlights what our commitments are by 2050, versus what other businesses have in commitment. So we've got a commitment to have our industrial water usage to reduce by 50%. And we've got another target with the scope 1 and 2 reduction of 33%, with scope 3 being 16%. Circular economy, it's going to be, again, a total target of 100% of recyclable packaging with 30% recycled or biosourced content. So we're working hard in making sure that those are realized in our space of production. And product stewardship for all group products, we're looking at 100% CLA. That's our target as well, compared to 2017. That is now for 2030 as Saint-Gobain business. And obviously other measures in place, which is your life cycle analysis. It's something that, through your product selection, you need to have that visibility and understanding, and any manufacturer should be able to share this information for you. Industry tools and certifications. We've got EPD verified certification. We've got Green Tech, and these are supported through Green Building Council, the EDGE tool, and the Zero Carbon Pledge. There are other mechanisms that are available in the market. It's not limited to them with these tools, and we are working closely with the various stakeholders in understanding the needs for each of these tools. Skills development. With any innovation of products and systems, you require the manpower. And in Saint-Gobain space, we've actually embarked on a partnership where we've got a youth build academy, where we trained the less fortunate to have probably been through higher tertiary education. These should be high school leavers who qualify to be taken into a 12-month program where they get taught on the various products, installation, handling, and basically just to interact within the construction market. We also support contractors through in-house or on-site support, where we come to site or you come at our facility, where we train you in understanding the various products and how to actually handle them on site. We also do sponsorship on various programs where we support, again, such initiatives in the construction sector. The bottom design there is another innovation by a developer who had identified a need to do a student accommodation. And through their proposal, we are able to support them in the initiative to make it a reality, but also to make sure that they've got a solution that is locally available to them through dry lining solution. These containers, your far right image shows a live container, which is literally a usable space by students, where we had an opportunity to understand the level of comfort. And this project is yet to come to fruition due to some limitations on funding. The site has been identified, so we are quite versatile, and we would support initiatives that will see us being innovative, also supporting sustainable solutions. Just towards closing, energy efficiency solutions, we're looking at lightweight facade solutions. We're looking at performance glass, as my colleague alluded. That was our start of the business, where we manufacture glass. So we've got that component within the business. Building insulation for the various building components and elements, heating and cooling, which means we will address your HVAC and water heating system solution. And with that, we will address energy efficiency, thermal comfort, acoustic comfort, fire safety, and product availability is guaranteed. And now what we do is we're saying, let's build better together. And how do we do that? Through knowledge sharing, engagement with accredited professionals within the business, qualified technical team, site inspection, and on-site support. And some of the tools, as mentioned, is your EPD LCA certification, tested and approved systems, building certification tools, building calculators. We've got BIM support files of our systems. We support through WinQS for quantity surveyors. Part of the trainings that we offer, it's the CPD programs, it's contractor training, on-site training, experience center in the context of South Africa, where you get to come and experience our space with the various products that have been installed. And we also offer some short courses, as mentioned earlier. Now, this is just a reference to some case studies of recently completed projects. I think it's just to give confidence for people to understand where we are. Also a summary of how we arrive at system build-up. We will categorize your space, understand and design it, and put it across for as much as cost-effective, again, in line with the requirements of the performance of the project. Some of the examples of how our engagement will go about, we will highlight on a design for various walling solutions. And with that, we can help you build up a bill of quantity per system and quantify it, get it to the market. I'm hoping an opportunity is there in the Nigerian market to actually support in this manner. And this is just an indication of some of the recently completed projects. This is the existing commercial building that had been converted to a student accommodation. And this is where some of the lightweight solution proves to be a solution because of the limitation on weight, but also considering the other factors of health and safety, the speed of installation. Being in the city center, you're going to have challenges of transportation. Now you can transport bulk quantities of drywall due to the nature of them being lightweight systems. So South African team were able to support the developer in working out the solution that's fit for purpose and addressing some key focus areas, which is the speed of construction, the fire safety, compliance of the system, reduced material waste and usage, which is standardization of sizes. So you'll get to bespoke size boards so that you have that reduction, reducing water use on site, transport saving, easy of handling, easy of service integration through our cavity system, and dry lining as we highlighted earlier along the perimeter. And with that, we're able to achieve some of this following, which is fire compliance, insulation through thermal comfort, acoustics with the site support that was available to them, high level of finish quality, and customized product, as I had mentioned earlier. Further to that, some of the projects we've done in Cape Town, I'm not gonna go too much into it. Recently completed Radisson Hotel, all done in drywall, and some of the acoustic products with some active air technology as well. And also recently we've done a conversion of office and a bank into a hotel, and it just happens to be called the Rosebank Hotel, and it was a bank before. We've listed the various stakeholders we've engaged with and some of the final images of the final installation there. And one of the biggest installation in Durban, again, high-rise buildings, lightweight opportunity, with the various stakeholders that have been involved there. Obviously, the size and the value of the project. Yes, yeah, that will be the end of our presentation. You are welcome to suggest, make comments, and engage on questions, and I'll be able to help you answer them. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much, Bongani Caesar. That was a wonderful presentation. Please, if you have any question, kindly either raise up your hand or send it to the chat, and we'll read it out. And please, after the question and answer, there's a bit of an email, a few announcements, please. So please, question and answer, please.
Okay, maybe I've just gone into the chart. If you don't mind, I'll look at the presentation, the question. It says, thank you, Mr. Bongani, for the good presentation. Can you enlighten us on the relationship between the government and the built environment professionals, especially the architects? It looks as if legislation is proactive and promptly attended to the professionals' demands on environmental issues. Secondly, how do you control development in various zones through a central body or zonal bodies like states, as the case in Nigeria? Thank you. Very interesting question. Thanks for that, Victor. I think what I would maybe highlight is that Saint-Gobain, you know, we spoke about customer proximity in the first clip. We are very close to our customer, and what we do is, particularly in my current space, I engage a lot with government officials, also with the private developers, including the architects themselves, which it's a role that I've been involved in my past 6 years with the business. So there is a close relationship with the various stakeholders there, which enables us to support them through understanding of the project's needs. Now, the legislation is one big driver, and as you would imagine, it's not easy to have everyone comply. But what it means is understanding the client's needs and engaging with the developer, the person now funding the projects, once they've been educated and informed enough to understand the importance of compliance, the importance of adhering to the required standards, it really does bring a lot of value to these projects. And the professionals are slowly getting into the pace. And with regards to lightweight, true, not everyone has received it well, but for those that understand the concept of future-proofing, they do value the opportunity to have a secondary or a different use in the near future, whether by them or the next generation. It's something that they've well received. Second question, with regards to various zones, again, Nigeria is a big country with the various states, as you've mentioned. I do believe, which is why I kept saying it'll be interesting to just understand what informs and how you guys drive innovative design in the various states, which will have been informed by the various weather conditions as well, is that we have those guidelines which shows you the minimum requirement on insulation, the minimum requirement on treating the envelope. So that's what informs the context of the South African market, which I think it's something that is possible to be able to achieve within the Nigerian space as well. Once there is a tailored legislation or rather guidelines, that is something I believe, if it's not in place through the association, there should be a collaboration to address that. I hope I've answered your question. All right, I'll move into the second question. It's Damilola, I hope I pronounce your name correctly. Have you considered the use of other, just a moment, jumped. have you considered the use of other forms of insulation aside rock wool, like the use of indigenous materials like thatch, etc.? Good question. I am one person that I can tell you it is something that definitely presents an opportunity. However, like you would design any other building, it's of importance to look at the safety part of it. What will be the reaction of a thatch material in an event of fire? What will be the longevity of that, over a period of time, given the climate conditions? I would say such are investigations that as a professional you should to satisfy yourselves with. However, we've got a 50-year plus lifespan on the glass wool or rock wool, as you've alluded to. That is something you need to have a comparable investigation or study to inform yourself and make sure you're making a decision that will long last for as long as the building lives. I hope I've answered you. This other question is coming from Oluni. Thank you for the presentation. What solution will you give for sourcing lightweight, sustainable material within Africa? Because overhead costs might still be high because of import of these products that are geared to help save overall cost. Thank you for that. I'm going to say I agree with you. There are some challenges and also dependent on individual countries' development. What I would say, maybe Denver, an opportunity is there for you to highlight where the business is at in terms of our local production and establishment of facilities to enable availability of some of these solutions. I don't know if you are able to
yeah, sure.
add to that.
Definitely. Okay, so I think, guys, in terms of, firstly, let me answer the first question or build on what you've answered, Bongani.
Yes.
If I look at how the evolution happened in South Africa, business worked very closely with government and with bodies like the NIA to develop a program that would help to kind of get insulation into homes, drywall into, or drywall systems, or POP, what you know in Nigeria as POP board, into residential, into multi-story apartment buildings, commercial buildings. And this is the evolution. So generally what happens in the vision in Nigeria, if you look at it, and I've seen it in many other countries across the continent, they start with block work, even on commercial buildings, and then the evolution firstly starts at a commercial level where block work moves to drywalling, okay, in different thicknesses with an insulation. If you look at the Standard Bank building that's in Victoria Island, that's now got all those innovative walls, those thermal, well-sound insulated product that's applied and systems that are there. The second thing is on the ground, guys, we've built a team and we've just literally in the past year, we've got a manufacturing facility on ground. That's for our mortars business. We are looking at gypsum. Insulation is being imported, and a valid point was on, not everything should be dependent on importation. When Saint-Gobain works with government, works with institutions like the NIA, we work with not just looking at what's best for our business. We add value to the industry by looking at what's best that could help and what's available on ground that we could use from a sustainability point, from a performance point, from light construction. And that is how, we changed legislation in South Africa where homes didn't have insulation, and legislation was changed and developed as part of a committee for the industry. And that is what we'd like to do in Nigeria, and work very closely with professionals like yourselves. To answer the last one in terms of solidify appliances, so drywalling has a specific fixing method. There's a high performance board. What you know of a 12 millimeter gypsum board is just the tip of the iceberg. There's a range of products from acoustic performance products that can really help. And our competitors do the same. So there are a lot of products already available locally that can be tapped into through distributors or through manufacturing businesses that are already on the ground. Did that answer?
Thank you. Yeah, it does, Denver. Just to add a little bit, I think it's something perhaps in the context of Nigeria is if you could share the summary of the various systems which addresses various performance criteria being fire, acoustics, and also height. As you said, 12.5, it's pretty much an entry level. You've got a variety of different products that responds to different needs. And that's why for every project that we engage in, we need to establish the requirements, and they're informed by compliance to building regulations, and we are able to tailor, specify a system that will respond to the needs of the project. Thank you for that, Denver. Another comment or question, it comes from Farouk. It says the use of indigenous materials such as thatch, as mentioned by Lola, is critical indeed, because we should not have to depend on extensively importation. Fully agreed, and which is why I roped in Denver, my colleague, to just in the context of what the business is doing, to try and see the market's needs and obviously respond with as much of locally sourced solutions as possible. I think that is an intervention that with time it will come available to you. Thank you.
So
and Kayode?
Bongani, one of the things, guys, just be aware, maybe Bongani, you want to talk about the student competition that we hold, and it plays to the school archives, where kids are, students have such good ideas, great research done, but then it just gathers dust in some library. And this is where Saint-Gobain can really come in, because we have a global student competition where we'd also like to take students from Nigeria too, and obviously enter their work into this global competition. So Bongani, maybe you want to talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, just a bit of a highlight. Thanks for bringing it up. There was a further question from Farouk. I looked down there with the talks to around schools, archives, and what some of researchers ends up. What we've done in the South African space is that we're running, I think it's every year or two. I don't know if my colleague Satya is on the platform. He could give some clarity, but we go through various universities, particularly in the built environment, looking at engineers, architects, looking at various QS professionals. We will then give a scope of a project. In recent times, it's been outside of South Africa, in Europe. The team just came back from Portugal that went to participate. They will run a national competition where they will be given a scenario and a brief. They will design and obviously applying the various technologies and solutions that are available to them, with some tools to measure the various solution intervention and how they will perform in that context. So there's greater opportunity to actually perhaps in the near future collaborate with the Nigeria's institutions that offer courses aligned to built environment, where we can explore that opportunity to give an opportunity to participate in this competition. And I will, through, as I said, my colleague Satya, who leads the academy, be able to check whether something like that can be worked on in the near future. Thank you. Moving on, the Kayode. Are there ways to solidify the wall? It's an example where the appliances can be fixed on the wall, like television nailing on the wall. Very good question. And how I would have answered that question, it's a pity I don't think I've got that project on my display. We have done a project in Sandton in South Africa called the Leonardo. Some of you might be familiar with it. It was declared the tallest residential building in Africa, where we've actually installed, in terms of product, we've got a product called Habito. You can actually just Google it and find out about it. They actually went with this solution for the purposes of your question here, in terms of fixings on the wall without what we call noggings or timber reinforcement within the cavity, because of the appointments being sold. So therefore, you don't limit the use. You've got the capacity to mount up to 60 kilogram with a safety factor of 4, with one pointing fixing giving you 15 kilograms of strength. So we've got solutions that actually talks to the needs, like I said, for your market. It's us understanding what the project's needs are and tailor the solution that is fit for the project. And then it looks like further to that, there are comments. Provision is often made to stiffen support frames in response to hanging TV, etc. Yes, it does respond to that. Can lightweight concrete be used to also solidify the walls? In this case, our product can work independently of any additional products such as concrete, to your question. However, you've got other systems which I'm not familiar with that work and using something similar.
So Bongani, just to build on that, the industry has a polystyrene beads mixed with cement that can be poured into the cavity of walls. So that's something that, that can be added. So, and again, guys, when we do these presentations, it's not just about Saint-Gobain. We also want to add value to the industry and see what other things we can bring to industry and what ideas we can suggest or share, because, we've got a wealth of experience that we are happy to share with you and get our teams to visit you. So no issues with that.
Okay, thank you for that. Someone, Denver, you said, look up called Habito. Thanks for that, Denver. Jesse said, like I expressed, the metallic support frames are stiffened and reinforced to carry heavy items. Yes, correct. You do have an opportunity on the standard system to stiffen it to actually be capacitated to take things like your kitchen cupboards and any additional items. However, if you want to design with less consideration, because that requires pre-planning of the position of some of these devices, you can use the product that has been indicated earlier. And then Farouk says, actually, fire resistance and longevity have been researched on. The platform, though, is that our researchers almost always end up in schools' archives, not much synergy between schools and industry. I think that is the reason why we've started the initiative. Help us with Landry. Alimi? Okay, thank you. I agree with you. Some of this research, they are definitely great and perhaps gives an opportunity to explore further than the research. We definitely have, as indicated, partnering with various institutions in trying to bridge the gap. However, this is something that, perhaps in the near future, I don't know from a Saint-Gobain's perspective if we can explore, but it will be great to, because what that means is that it could be integrated into some of our systems, obviously subject to the relevant test that needs to be met for every area, if that answers the question. The next comment says, I think with regards to thatch, we need to do more and improve on its preservation qualities, reaction to weather or infestation, which could help make it more durable. 100% agreed. So there is still some work considering the various risk factors. This is unlike what you see, for example, between the state of Massachusetts and MIT in the US. Agree. Please, I need the link to this recorded webinar, both the audio and slides. My email is, we will get back to you, Farouk.
Yes, we definitely have it. Don't worry.
Okay, lovely. Thank you. And thanks for the engagement. I don't know if there's still more comments, questions. You're welcome to email me. And I think this presents an opportunity for future collaborations, and hopefully I'll come to Nigeria one of these days and get to meet some of the colleagues there.
Thank you very much, Denver. Thank you very much. Many thanks to Saint-Gobain for partnering with us and sponsoring this. Like I mentioned earlier, I have just some few announcements. And this is just the beginning of a partnership with Saint-Gobain. There's still some other futures coming up, which is going to be in the announcement that I'm making. But as a normal tradition, please permit me to recognize some of the fellows of the Institute in our midst, most especially one of our eldest, Architect Majoro. And I hereby recognize the following fellows: Architect Shodunke Ubi Muiwaige, who is the former chapter chairman of Oyo State; Architect Abimbola Ajayi, a former state chapter chairman and the former ATS; Architect Omi Agbaje. And I recognize the chairman of the two branches, the only branches we still have in NIA today, Architect Victor Achima, who asked one of the questions, and Architect Adewa Habe. Before we round up, like I mentioned, under the announcement, please, members, we're going to have this AIP app testing, which we want everybody to be involved, because all this kind of a future that we've had going to be in this app is just a way of guiding our profession. For those of you who have been at the meeting, you've heard about it, but we're going to send out the testing app, and we want the feedback. It's only going to be for a short period, maybe maximum 5 or 7 days. Also, on the invitation by the Lagos State government, which we received a letter day before yesterday, was published in the paper, which is to do on the initiation to strengthen the built environment, talking about the accredited checkers, or outsourcing the monitoring of the building process approval in Lagos State. So it's going to be held at Mozon Center on the 11th of July. Likewise, talking about our 48th anniversary as well, which is also in conjunction with the World Habitat Day, the 48th anniversary of the chapter, which will be taking place between 1st of October to 6th of October. And definitely, I know with my talk with Denver, we're going to have a more partnership with St. Gobain.
Definitely.
Thank you everyone for attending this webinar. It's been a wonderful time, and I must say a big thank you to Bongani Caesar. Thank you very much for this wonderful presentation. And I will hope we all I enjoyed it, and I hope everyone enjoyed this session. And we're looking forward to the next as well. Thank you very much. Thank you,
Chairman, sir.
Thank you, guys.
Yes, please.
Chairman, before you go, I would like us to note that we had them on YouTube, about 20 of them. Unfortunately, we didn't have any questions from them. Just to also note that and appreciate the guys on the.
Yeah, thank you very much. Initially, we had about 85 participants in this Zoom. And yes, I got the message. I mean, on the YouTube, it's almost near to about 20. I think it's in between 18 and 20. Thank you very much, everyone. And we'll look forward to our next webinar, and we'll look forward to our next partnership with St. Gobain.
Thank you guys for the opportunity. Thank you, David.
Thank you for the opportunity.
Take care, guys. Appreciate everything. Yeah, thank you.
Bye
And for those that want the link, it's on YouTube already. You can just go back to YouTube and watch it.
Okay.
You don't need to wait for any link. It's live on YouTube already.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Thanks. Bye.
Thanks, guys. Have a blessed afternoon. Take care. Bye.
Bye.